and welcome to another episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi, how are y'all? Doing hopefully better than me. I am recording this after just waking up 5 minutes ago or so. Me being Marcus Nez, your host, hi, from a nightmare that was very close to initiating within me a panic and or anxiety attack. My heart was beating very fast and I was feeling not so much a shortness of breath, but difficulty breathing. I did not feel good. I felt very, very bad. And I was in my nightmare, feeling distressed. And I forced myself to wake up because I could feel not right. And when I woke up, I felt very not right. But I calmed myself down, realizing that, well, I had to double check to see that what was happening in the nightmare did not happen in real life, even though I was 99.9% sure that 0.01% chance still needed to be confirmed. I won't go into the details of the nightmare because I don't want to think about it. I will say it's not related to my father, except that he was in it and kind of not complacent, but didn't really care about what was happening. So you could say he was complacent, but that's not the word I want to use. I don't want to say he was aloof, not disinterested. He was just there. But this wasn't one of my many, and I had one maybe again a few months ago, but the many nightmares I had right after my father had a stroke, where something related to it was happening and it felt very real, and only when I woke up and made sure that this or that didn't happen could I finally get relief again. This had nothing to do with that. However, by far the worst feeling when I woke up. So that was fun. You know what else is fun? Games are fun. Not is fun. They are fun because it's plural. And I've got plenty to talk about. Are the ones I'm going to be talking about fun? You'll have to wait to find out. But those games include SCHiM, Alaskan Road Truckers, REVEIL, Athenian Rhapsody, Alchemist, the Potion Monger, RPM, Road Punk Mayhem, and Shield King. But before we get to all that, I decided to rewatch / watch for the first time a bunch of Terry Gilliam and David Cronenberg movies. I have some lingering in my collection that I was just hanging on to because they both feel like directors who, even if you don't love a work of theirs, you should still own it because they're interesting directors. They have a very specific touch. They are auteurs, if you want to use that word. They have a stamp, they have an identity. You can watch a movie and immediately realize this is a Gilliam movie or this is a Cronenberg movie. So they feel like directors you need to appreciate. And I do appreciate them. I appreciate them both very much so. I may even see or say I appreciate Cronenberg more for having a very distinct vision I see across all his movies. But you can say the same about Gilliam, I guess. The thing with Cronenberg is that I like a lot less of his movies. And of the handful I do like, 2 are the obvious, less Cronenberg-esque body horror type movies of A History of Violence and Eastern Promises. But I'm also a very big Viggo Mortensen fan. So why don't we start with Cronenberg? I rewatched Videodrome, Naked Lunch, and what was the third one? Scanners. Scanners, I think, has some cool ideas that I wish were in a movie with better actors, because the acting in it fucking sucks. If you remove Michael Ironside, who is great in it, the lead is this fucking wooden nothing that just sucks. And then everyone else, outside of Patrick Mahoon, I always forget his last name, but the guy who wrote, directed, and starred in The Prisoner, the TV show, which is a fantastic show. I am not a fucking AI, I'm a human man, whatever the hell the saying is. I need to rewatch that. That's a good show. But he's serviceable in it. However, Michael Ironside really is the one standout in the movie. And then it's the movie Cronenberg's maybe most famous for because of the exploding head scene. Though I would assume that The Fly, for being The Fly, is more... Well, it's not his most famous movie, I would assume, though. It's his most famous scene. But it just has such poor acting that I can't deal with it. Then Videodrome is just unbelievably boring. I watched half of it, a little over half of it, and I couldn't believe how bored I was with it. I really want to like it, like I do with so many Cronenberg movies, but I just couldn't care about anything happening in it, which sucks because Deborah Harron is in it. I think that's her name, Blondie, and I love Blondie. Blondie is one of my favorite bands from that era, and she does a good job in it with what's there. It's just ugh. And then Naked Lunch, I believe, is one of those movies that is of a novel, an unfilmable novel, which we'll get to again with Terry Gilliam. And maybe the novel reads better, but in movie form, it's not that it's boring. It just... I didn't care. I did not care. Didn't really like any of these characters, and couldn't care less about seeing where the story goes. Nor do I need to see a giant cockroach that talks out of its back through a butthole mouth. I'm good. I don't need any butthole mouths. That was my extent of rewatching Cronenberg movies, because I should rewatch A History of Violence and Eastern Promises. I've never loved those movies, but maybe I could love them now. I've had some issues with them, but I think the more straightforward story mixed with his love of graphic violence and focusing in on that element makes a nice contrast. So when those moments hit in those movies, they really stand out and you feel them at a visceral level. I think he works with those movies. I didn't need to rewatch other movies that I knew I wasn't, because these are movies I own, that I was saying, do I really need to own these? I thought Map of the Stars was fine. A Dangerous Method fine. I really like Cosmopolis. That is a weird outlier in the... This movie is fucking weird as shit. And I can't really say I like it, but I am captivated by it. I am intrigued by it. I'm also a big Robert Pattinson fan. So that doesn't hurt. And it's not Twilight or that stupid movie Remember Me that ends with 9/11. Fucking what a... That's a fine whatever melodrama that is destroyed by its ridiculous ending. But what other Cronenberg? I don't like The Fly. I think The Fly has a really strong first and second act, and then the third act falls apart with a terrible ending that it's not satisfying. I don't like it. Then have I seen any? I haven't seen Crimes of the Future, I believe it's called. I did not like Rabbit. I'm not sure if I saw Shivers. I confused the two. I think Rabbit is the one where it's probably not for me for multiple reasons, but casting an adult film actress in your lead didn't help either. But Cronenberg is someone who I appreciate so much. I just don't like a lot of his stuff. Then with Terry Gilliam, my 3 movies I haven't rewatched because they are movies I love and I don't need to rewatch them are Brazil, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, and 12 Monkeys. Of those 3, I probably like Don Quixote the most. I know that's a more divisive movie of his, but I fucking love the shit out of that movie. Brazil would get the top spot for world building and feeling big and just having a lot more of that imaginative element that Gilliam is so good at. But that's not a movie I'm just going to feel like picking up and watching at any given moment. It's not the most fun, but Don Quixote is so much fun. I have so much fun watching that movie. And then 12 Monkeys is just great. Then just below that would be I enjoy these tier of the Imaginarium of Doctor Who fucking whatever shit and Time Bandits. I rewatched Time Bandits and the Imaginarium. They both surprised me with how much I enjoy them. I don't remember liking, especially Time Bandits, I don't remember liking that the first time, but I think I only watched 10 minutes and I was not down with the premise and wanting to watch it. But it's a fun little adventure movie. Going through time with, what is the political correct term now? Dwarfs? I don't know. Little people. And it's fun. Some nice cameos that I wasn't expecting. Specifically Sean Connery. And a fucking weird ass ending that I won't spoil. Except I will spoil because it's old as shit. You don't want to get spoiled? Skip ahead 15 seconds. Kid comes back from all this fantastical adventuring to his parents, and then they touch whatever object and they fucking explode. And it just ends. They don't come back. He doesn't get to go back with Sean Connery in the time where he was, I don't know what he was, a pharaoh or something. But he doesn't go back to live with him. He's just parentless. Cool. But then on the bubble is the Zero Theorem, which I watched for the first time, and it has some of that Brazil vibe to it. It has that weirdness and look and feel. But the ideas don't feel fully explored in a satisfying way. There's some extra weird stuff that I don't know if I jive with, but it's a movie that I was happy to go on the ride for, but I would never go out of my way to ride it again. However, if I was ever in the neighborhood and I saw the Zero Theorem ride and I was there, I just, yeah, why not? Why not? So that's not a ringing endorsement, but why not endorsement? And I think it's on Peacock. That's where I watched it. So if you want to check that one out. And then I think that's where my liking of his stuff ends. I'm not counting any Monty Python stuff here, even though he only fully directed The Holy Grail, I believe. And then Meaning of Life, he only wrote and then co-directed Life of Brian, or the other way around. But The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, that feels a lot like Time Bandits, and there's some great visual stuff going on in there, but I did not feel the same about the adventure as I did with Time Bandits. I didn't really see the reason for any of it, and I didn't find it particularly fun. And then some of the cameos, specifically Robin Williams, drove me fucking crazy. And speaking of Robin Williams, The Fisher King feels like a movie that should have been directed by someone else. It does not feel like material suited for Gilliam. It would have been better off in the hands of Darren Aronofsky, who I don't like, but it seems much more suited for him. And in Gilliam's hands, it doesn't quite work. Tidelands, I couldn't stand. I did not finish that. I hear it just gets more and more depressing, but I never got to those parts because I hated the way the little girl talked. I just could not stand listening to her, and did not really like her acting in certain scenes, and the way it's just, I couldn't stand it. And then what else is left of his? I already talked about Fisher King. There's something else. There's at least 1, 2 others, but I don't know if I can remember them. Jabberwocky. That feels like Gilliam still trying to figure out what he wants to do on his own, because I think that was what he directed right after Holy Grail, so it's even pre the other Monty Python movies. I just like, what? Well, whatever. But that's where I'm at, and now I don't know what to watch next. I did watch Boy Kills World, whatever the fuck that stupid movie is called. That movie sucks. I figured I would either love or hate that movie, and I was feeling more confident that I'd probably hate it based on the trailer. And I did. The narration is incredibly annoying, as is the interaction with his sister throughout the movie. I couldn't stand either, in large part because the writing, the script is very, very bad. But even without that, I don't think whatever that Benjamin guy's name is who does the voice of Archer, I like him. Don't like his voice as the narrator in this movie, as the internal voice for the boy, since he is deaf. I did not realize that. And then the action did not make up for it because it was poorly edited. A lot of sped up action and jumping around, and there was some decent choreography there that the way it was shot took away from. Dumb, predictable story, just shitty all around. So that just means I don't have to waste collection space on it, so that's fine by me. Let's get on to what I've been playing. Starting with SCHiM. This is that very visually striking puzzle platformer. It's a bit of a monochromatic look. I don't think it's you'd fully call it monochromatic. But it's a game where you play as this boy's shadow, and you follow them throughout their life. And then one day, when they're a young adult, I'm guessing, you get disconnected from them. And presumably the entire game is going to be trying to get back to this guy and return as his shadow. I played it for about 45 minutes and was really disappointed in it because as much as it is a pleasure to look at, in terms of the actual gameplay, it's really boring. There's not a lot of room for experimentation. The puzzles aren't challenging because it is a very linear game where you are trying to reach something or other, whether it's a vehicle or a person, to clear an area and move on to the next in your constant attempt to return and reunite with this guy who you are the shadow for. But because of this, the way it's designed, it's just you following basically there are times where you can kind of diverge from the main path, and this could be to find a collectible, but you're mainly only able to really go in one direction, and because of that, there's not much thought or challenge that goes into figuring out exactly what you have to do. There might be times where in order to keep going, you have to jump out of a shadow and move over a little bit to turn on some traffic lights or manipulate a machine. But outside of those few instances, at least in the first 45 minutes, and I'm pretty sure this is a very short game, there's not much to it, which is a shame because it does have one of the more striking visual styles, aesthetics I've seen in a while. And that is definitely something that I would assume will draw quite a few people in. But I think once you get in and the appeal, that initial luster of the visuals wears off, you'll realize that the gameplay is not on the same level. And that's too bad. That is again SCHiM, and it's SCHiM, SCHiM, all capital except the I. So it's a very Apple-friendly game. Then Alaskan Road Truckers is one of many trucking, etc. simulators, but with a bit of a twist. In most of those games, you are just taking on jobs and completing them, getting money to buy new vehicles, better equipment, so on, and just doing that over and over again. This throws in a survival element where you also have to worry about your driver. And I really, really like that twist on the genre. I'm sure this has been done before, but this is my first time playing a game like this where it's not just about your vehicle, it's also about you, the driver. You have to worry about your hunger, your energy, and I think that adds a nice element to it that, for me at least, makes it feel more like I am in this game. I am in this world. I'm a part of it. And I could see myself playing a lot more of this than just your traditional simulator that is more about numbers and the driving and nothing else. That said, it doesn't look that particularly great. Performance is okay, but one of the biggest negatives about performance is that when in first person mode, your side view mirrors, they run at maybe about, the image you're seeing in them run at about 8 frames per second, making them not as useful as they should be. And I like driving in first person in these games. I tend to prefer, especially if I'm driving around big rigs with long trailers, I cannot back up in first person. No way in hell. I always have to switch to third person whenever I'm backing up a truck. But for the most time, I'm just driving in first person. But all that aside, that stuff is fine. The driving feels all right. I like that when you are driving on the road in your little GPS mini map, it'll show you the speed limit on there, so you don't have to pay attention and look on the road and see what the signs are saying to make sure you're driving within the speed limit, even though it doesn't really matter because I've never run into a cop, so I don't know how or if it's possible to get any kind of ticket or fines for going over the speed limit. I'm assuming you will get fined or lose money for hitting other vehicles or driving off the road and hitting trees and stuff like that. There's a repair element to the game that goes kind of into that survival thing, but I would assume it's been a while since I played one of the runners games, snow runners, mud runners. But you can go to stores and get chains for your tires, various toolkits that you will need at certain instances when going on your drives, a chainsaw to chop wood, toolkits, flashlights for going out, food for you. There are hotels that I'm assuming you can sleep in if you don't want to sleep in the sleeper cab in the back. You have your little headquarters that you can upgrade over time. And I like it. I enjoy this stuff. I'm just curious if it's I don't think there's a lot of depth there. I think this is a really good idea that's probably not explored to the fullest extent. So it might get old fast. But this is one of these games that I am definitely going to go back to and play more of it. I may hold off and make it a future Attack the Backlog game for that. But it is way more enticing to me than most games of this nature. One of the weirdest things about it, though, is that, and there's a lot of stuff that makes it feel real, and then you're taken out of it by the fact that when you go to the store to pick up some equipment and supplies for your truck and yourself, the person behind the counter in Alaska, in what feels like serious trucking environment, is dressed like they belong in the Matrix. Seems weird, but all right. You do you, bro. A lot of the character models are fucking weird. But one of the weirdest elements about it is that I'm thinking, because it says something about there's live radio in here. And you can also, if you run into an issue, you can call on the CB radio for help and someone will come to help you. So I haven't had to do that, so I don't know how that all plays out, but that's a cool thing as well. But there's live radio in the game. And I'm guessing the source is some internet live free shit, like a Tubi, but for music, for radio. I don't remember how they worded it. I just saw it and thought, oh, that's cool. Sure, fine, whatever. And I thought it just meant when you're driving in the game, we have this simulated in-game thing with truckers talking and stuff like that. I haven't heard any truckers talking. I want to hear that. But it mentions that if you are streaming, I don't think there's a streamer mode. You just turn the radio down because there's going to be licensed music on it, they say. And I figured, oh, it's probably going to be licensed music that isn't something I know of, but is going to be claimed because it is licensed anyway, and that shit gets claimed automatically by bots and all that kind of shit. And that was the case with the first song I heard. But then the next one that started playing was Elastic Heart by Sia, which is a song I know very well. I'm not that out of the loop these days. And when that started playing, I thought to myself, what the fuck? This definitely has to be some kind of internet free radio source or whatever, because there's no way this game paid to get the rights to that song. But I was happy to hear it. I like that song. So I was driving around and Sia started playing. And I was like, fuck. Yeah, I like this game. I'm eating some mixed nuts, drinking some water, and listening to Sia while driving my truck. Another important thing to know, when you are eating food, if you decide to eat something or drink something when driving, even though it only requires one hand, I guess it would take multiple hands to open up the bag of mixed nuts first. But when you're going to eat it, you only need the one hand. You only need one hand to eat nuts. You want a mouthful of nuts? Well, sometimes you don't need any hands. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, when you were eating and driving, you lose control of the car. You no longer have control of it, which would be fine if you are driving down a straight road. But I decided to see what would happen when I drank water while driving, right as I was hitting a sharp turn, and I drove right off the road. Thankfully, I wasn't close enough to any trees or anything to get into serious damage, but that was not fun. For the few seconds, I was scared that I was going to end up in a bad crash. And I also like that something I don't remember in other games. You will get to points where you have to repair your car, replace the battery and stuff like that. But when you're filling up the gas, you actually go, you park, and then you go to the pump, pick how much you want to put in. Gas is a racket. My God, is it expensive filling up your truck. But then you take out the pump and put it into your truck and let it do its thing. And when you are attaching trailers, it's not just back in and then click the attach button. It's back into the spot, then walk out. All right. First, put down the, not emergency lock, but it keeps the trailer. Well, when you're picking up something, it's already going to be set that way. But then you attach these two wires, you lock the trailer in there, and then you're good to go. Then you raise the thing when you're taking the trailer where you're going, and then you lower it when you're delivering it. Nothing crazy, nothing amazing, but of the simulator games, it's one that I've had more fun with than I was expecting. Very pleasant surprise so far, but again, it may not have legs at all. Next is REVEIL, which is a horror game that's set in a circus where you play a man who is looking for his wife and daughter. They were part of the circus. They were flying. Is trapeze the trampoline thing? Or is that what you call they were the flying act. And you seem to be the handyman around this circus. That is now debunked, I think. And this game has to be set in the past because your weirdly designed apartment that you live in or whatever. I don't think it's a house. It's fucking weirdly designed. And you have this CRT, this tiny, maybe 17-inch CRT in this giant open spot, and then candles. Your house is fucking weird in the way it's put together. I don't know why certain drawers are duct taped shut just so that you can't open them. Great. All the mirrors are fucking filthy. Just make them. You don't want to do reflections? Whatever. Don't make making all your mirrors filthy doesn't not distract from the fact that the mirrors don't work. All right. It makes it more distracting by you being a filthy piece of shit who doesn't clean your mirrors. Just have clean mirrors with no reflections. I'd rather be a vampire than a slob. All right. But it feels like a game that is somewhat inspired by a mixture of layers of fear with the vibe and mood of it. And then PT to an extent where you're going to be redoing the thing, because I finished the first chapter and then it sent me, because I woke up in my little apartment and I was looking for my daughter, going around getting bits of story here and there, following it, doing the very rare occasional puzzle that wasn't really puzzling, and then I ended up somehow magically transporting to where the circus was and going through the fun house. That wasn't fun. And when I completed all that, I woke up again thinking, oh my god, what a fucking nightmare. I need my headache pills. And then you're exploring your house again, and it's a little bit different this time. And I'm guessing rinse and repeat. But in my hour plus with it, I didn't care about the story. The constant narration takes away from any attempt at scares. It's not scary at all. It has a very nice visual style. I like the look of it overall. But it's not scary. I didn't like the story. The voice acting, okay. But it's so constant. I just wish your character would shut up, because every time they chime in, I'm thinking, let me just get lost in this weirdo world as it's switching up on me and whatnot. And then when I got through a chunk of chapter 2 and got to a part where presumably it's your wife who is moving around all creepily on the bottom floor of your on the bottom floor of where you're currently at, clearly indicating this is going to be one of those typical stealth instant fail hide and seek type of situations. I was out, because I hate that type of horror gameplay. And even if I wanted to try and persevere and make my way through that, what I had played up to that point did not give me a reason to keep playing, because again, didn't care about the story. There weren't any, I wouldn't even call what I really did was a puzzle. So there wasn't any reason for me to keep playing outside of maybe seeing some cool visuals later on. That's not enough. That's REVEIL. An Athenian Rhapsody is a classic retro RPG in the vein of Earthboundy and what I've seen Undertale-y. And I like parts of it. My biggest problem with it is that I don't love the writing. And a big part of that is because it doesn't know when to shut up. It is funny, but then it keeps going and going and going. To me, a lot of the writing feels like this. They'll say something and I'll think, that was funny. And then they'll say something either that's very similar or just the same thing, or linger on a joke or do it multiple times. And it gets to the point where it's, yeah, that's funny. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it. I get it. All right. Move on. Then there's some downtime and I'm feeling less annoyed by the writing, and there's some new humor going on. I'm like, okay, okay, yeah, all right. Let's move on. And that's how a lot of the writing and humor felt for me in the hour and a half I played of it. I like the combat system. So you play some boy who wakes up in some waterfall, and you got a lot of characters there. And you're going around collecting, befriending animals in a very Pokemon-ish type of way and battle system, and interacting with some NPC creature animal things who will eventually, at least one will eventually join your party, and more over time, I'm sure. But the combat system features 4 different choices: attack, then your extra thing of befriending, which has you either doing some bits of dialogue or a little action, and you'll see how the animal you're currently fighting reacts to that. And if you fill the befriend bar, you can befriend them. Then there are these splurges, or whatever they are, these special things that you use the power you obtain, the points you obtain from successfully attacking enemies and befriending them and stuff of that nature, that can heal you or deal significant damage. But what I like about the combat system is that your attack, at least so far, is very basic. It's just a bar filling, and you want to press it when it's at the top of the bar. Or you can, well, not or, that's just the attack, but when the enemy's attacking, there will be various minigames tied to their attack that you have to do, like dodging these objects. Well, most of them revolve around dodging, but the way you're dodging will be different based on the attack and based on the creature. But I like the battle system, and I thought the writing was okay. And I want to play more, because I think there's some fun stuff in there, but the writing just was getting too grating for me. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point, but I also would kind of want to play Earthbound first and Undertale. But that is, again, Athenian Rhapsody. Then Alchemist, the Potion Monger, is a first-person game where you are playing a potion monger. Problem with this game is it's buggy and crashed on me twice, and in both cases I lost all my progress because, as far as I know, the only time the game saves is when you're sleeping. Didn't really get a chance to sleep, and the second time was after an hour of play, and I lost all that progress, and it had to start from the very beginning. Didn't want to do that because sometimes things don't register, and there is screen tearing in the game. It is not so bad that I couldn't get past it. I've seen much worse, but it is there. It is noticeable, and I don't like screen tearing. But again, it was not egregious enough for me to immediately check out because of that alone. The other issues are there, though, and I'm confused somewhat because it's in early access on PC still. Maybe it's soon to leave, but it's not a game preview on Xbox, I don't believe, which is where I was playing it. But what you're actually doing, I think, could be fun if I trusted the game more to not fuck me over. Because you get to this little cabin and you unpack your goods, place your bed, place a table, your cauldron, and some other equipment. And then you're going to be creating potions, which is all a simple process. When you're using the cauldron, it becomes this little quick time event type of thing where you're just pressing buttons and directions on the D-pad as they're coming up to improve the level of your potion that you're making. You're going around the environment, collecting resources and ingredients for potions, discovering them, along the way. There's a town that I wasn't able to visit, so I don't know how expansive that is, because as I was making my way to town, that's when the game crashed and I lost that hour plus of progress. There's very simple battling in it, which will allow you to collect resources as well. Exploring the environment. Came across a pirate ship. That was fun. But the game is just a bit broken. Hopefully, it gets patched. And it'd be nice if there was auto saves in addition to the manual saves of sleeping, because it sucks when you lose a lot of progress. It's hard not to feel defeated and not want to return to a game when stuff like that happens. So that is Alchemist the Potion Monger. RPM Road Punk Mayhem is a shmup, a vertical scrolling shmup where you're in a vehicle and it fucking looks incredible. It has a great visual style that is clearly inspired by Redline. I was gonna say Redfall. No, it's not Redfall. Redline, the anime movie that is a wild race, super exaggerated, crazy colors, thick, bold outlines on everything. It's one of the most distinctive anime movies out there. One that anyone semi-aware or semi a fan of anime is probably aware of, because I'm pretty sure it was a really expensive movie at the time. I believe it took a long time, and I don't believe they got their money back on it. I don't think it was a successful venture, but it has a great look to it, and RPM is clearly playing off that. It looks so much like it. It's almost but it looks great. And it plays well. I like some of the stuff in it, like the fact that when you defeat an enemy, especially a tougher enemy who is shooting a lot of projectiles at you, when you kill them, all the projectiles turn into the currency you gain for high scores and whatnot, which I really like. I like that system because it adds this bit of risk reward where maybe you're about to get hit if you don't maneuver out of the way, but you're in the path of the enemy and you could hit them and you feel like you're just about to destroy them. So do you take the chance and hope you destroy them before you're hit, or do you get out of the way and play it safe? I like that. There is this slow-mo aspect where you can slow down time and move around within this circle of movement that is clearly visible on screen, that allows you to move through projectiles and environmental hazards or blockages freely and not take damage, which is nice. And at times needed when an enemy, especially bosses, are firing full screen attacks that you can't avoid with regular movement. But with the visual style, it is so fucking this is one of the busiest shmups I've played in a while, and it makes it extra hard to read what is happening a lot of the times. And in games like this, where that's already a problem, making it a little bit worse does not help, and that made it a bit more frustrating than even your typical shmup. So while I love the look of it and the style of it, it ended up being a double-edged sword that stabbed me ultimately and ruined my chance for having an enjoyable time with it. Then the last game is Shield King, which is a little simple game, single screen,
you're on top of a building. There are different versions of it. There's one at night and one a snowy one. And you take on waves of enemies. All you have is a shield that you can use to block enemies and then dash and do damage to them, as well as push them off the building if you're lucky. And hopefully you don't dash yourself off the building and have to restart the level. You're gaining XP and gold over time that you can use to upgrade your shield or buy new ones. That's all you're doing. It's really, really frustrating because it's super fucking cheap. Some of the enemies can damage you if you're fighting multiple of them and you push into them. There are ones that will pretty much damage you every single time, like the base first enemy you find, which is the zombie. But then there are other enemies that seemingly never attack you unless you just stand still and let them attack you. Like the slimes are pretty worthless. These jumping frog-like purple things are pretty worthless. Bats are fairly worthless. But the zombies, they fucking suck. And then the toadstools that shoot at you and usually come in large enough packs to be extra annoying. And when they lock into place, they're fucking and shoot at you. Then those are just super fucking annoying. And then when I'm trying to push them off the building, sometimes they just conveniently, when they're not locked in place, they try to push them off the building, they'll conveniently get stuck on the edge. Sometimes they don't. Doesn't make any fucking sense. And then there are times where I seemingly slide way longer than usual with the dash, and then I go right off the fucking edge. I lost my mind and pushed through, despite hating it, the first 20 levels, the first area, just to get all those achievements. And I felt like there's 2 or 3 instances where I fought bigger enemies, which I would assume are mini bosses. Didn't get that achievement. That fucking sucks. I don't know if those weren't mini bosses. They sure felt like mini bosses. That game just pissed me off. So, Shield King can fuck off. I wish I liked it, but it just pissed me off more and more. And I want my mini boss achievement, bastard game. That is it for this week and whatnot. I say and whatnot so much, I need to fucking get rid of that one. That is one of my repeated phrases. But whatever. We don't need to get into that now. What we need to get into is getting out of here. And that is by me starting with the saying, once again, that will do it. Once again, though, I am, of course, your host, Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. I think I'm pretty much done with Twitter. I haven't been using it in a long time. The last tweet was maybe over a year-ish ago. I just can't. Elon Musk, I can't do it. And then Blue Sky, maybe I'll really try, since I had them both there with shortcuts, and they were both there for me to mess with. Maybe I should try, because they added GIFs, which is great. Maybe I should really try to. I'm gonna try and Blue Sky it up, and then I'm not sure if I want to keep my letterbox or not. I don't know. I talked about this a bit with Lunchbox. I'm not going to get into it here, because this show's already running long. Anyway, once again, I am Marcus Ness, everywhere at PX Sausage, pretty much. If you enjoyed this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There, you can get access to a monthly Q&A, some fancy Discord roles, a private channel for the cool kids, as well as random drops on Patreon and more. Or if you just want to support me, you can do that as well. Various tiers for your various choices. So, looking at that if you enjoy my stuff and would like to support me. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. But for now, adios, arrivederci, bye.
It's go time. Go, Daddy.